I keep on saying this, but this is not a topical show, but every once in a while something happens in the news, gaming news anyway, and it opens up to a much broader topic, so that's kind of the case this week. That and this has been bugging me for the past bunch of years, so let's talk about this. So I'll start with the current event. In late May 2016, Payday 2 stopped using microtransactions. The game was originally made by Overkill, who said in 2013 they would never have microtransactions in their game. Then in 2015 they introduced microtransactions. It was part of the Black Market update. The general gist is that you could buy drills with real money and open special in-game safes. And these would have weapon skins that might have mods or boosts in them. You could keep the skin or you could trade it on the Steam Marketplace. In May of 2016, Payday 2 was, in a corporate speak move, acquired by the parent company Starbreeze Studios, who pretty much immediately pulled microtransactions from the game. And because of this, I know a few people who have reinstalled Payday 2 onto their systems. Okay, so that's the news portion of this show, but I really want to dissect this because, personally, I feel like my intelligence is being insulted. Let's talk a moment about what microtransactions are anyway. On paper, it's a small purchase made from an online game of some kind. It can be buying like a cool paint job, a literal skin for your character, or a pretty horsey. So listen to, for example, Champions Online. You can buy a lot of movement powers that have no real mechanical effect on gameplay, but it stands out because not everybody has it. This is not DLC. Downloadable content is more like an expansion to an existing game that you've already purchased. And, well, you download it. And, well, often DLC is already patched into a game, and then you can elect to pay to unlock that content, but another kettle of fish right there. DLC is a substantial purchase compared to a microtransaction, so it's like 15 or 30 bucks as opposed to like $2. But here's where I get to that whole intelligence being insulted thing, because somewhere along the way, I'm not entirely certain where, but somewhere along the way, developers figured out they could sell power for money. Actually, come to think of it, I kind of know where it might have started. Someone's gonna pull the racist card, but I'll deal with that. Chinese free-to-play games are just money pits. Let's take this article from IGN in 2012. It had this great quote about game designers building money pit games. As quoted in the article, it's all about the monetization. No price is too small if it means that your name's on the leaderboard. And from what I understand, this is just the culture of gaming over there. I doubt, no doubt, some expert's gonna correct me in the comments section. Go ahead, I'll read it. Meanwhile, in the United States, we've got this different culture that abhors the concept of pay-to-win gaming. Game companies will do anything and everything to not get saddled with the pay-to-win moniker. If you need any proof, H1Z1. What did they have to do to try to shake that reputation? Yeah, and for that matter, how many angry comments am I going to get for just insinuating that H1Z1 is pay-to-win? It's an emotional topic, and it's a very American notion of you gotta pay your dues. No one gets a free ride to the top, and if you do, there's a lot of resentment about you. Americans love an underdog story, but ironically, these are the same gamers who will scream about pay to win, and they'll happily take boosted weapons and armors from a friend, because, you know, that's different. I mean, he earned it. That's cool. Now, what's interesting to me is that how the term microtransaction has become almost as toxic as the term pay to win, oftentimes being interchangeable. And the reason for that is what Defiance or H1Z1 or Payday 2 has done with it. It's not a transaction. Hence the title of this episode. To call these things microtransactions is a misuse of the term because there is no transaction. I'm buying a slot machine pull. I might get a cool skin, maybe some ammo, some armor, a stat boost, a cool mount. I might get nothing. See, this is one of the core problems I have with things like collectible card games, too. My roommates, they're really heavily into Magic the Gathering. It's not unheard of for them to drop $200 or so on boxes of booster packs. They're hoping to get the lottery draw and get that one card that they need. Meanwhile, boxes and piles and just trash land cards end up in the recycling bin. If you've been with the show since the beginning, you'll remember that I did a show about B.F. Skinner's work in the first show I did on Channel Awesome. In that show, I quoted John Hobson, who wrote this article in Gama Sutra about behavioral game design, and he said that he didn't get why people got antsy when games use engagement engineering techniques, and when coffee shops do it, they're fine with that. You want to know why? You really want to know why? I'll tell you why. Okay, let's say I go into Starbucks, which is highly unlikely because I can't justify spending $7 on a cup of coffee, but humor me for a moment here. So I go into Starbucks, I put $7 on the counter, and I say, give me a large cup of coffee. They don't immediately turn around to a wheel and then spin it and then give me whatever happens to show up on the wheel. Oh, you got a blank space. Sorry, you don't get any coffee today. No. I am doing a transaction. I am putting down money. They are giving me coffee. And that 10 for 1 deal thing that they always do, you know, if you buy 10, get the next one for free, that's not a slot machine pull. That's incentive for me to come back and enjoy more of their product. Not so I can go into their place so they can spin a wheel and serve me Folgers. I just made a coffee lover cringe, and I'm okay with that. This is how microtransactions got the toxic reputation. In almost every game they're implemented in, it's used as a gambling device. And it's not even selling power for monies as much as it's selling the promise of power for money. Well, you know, you might get a boosted weapon, you might get commonly available costume pieces, you just don't know. What makes it even more volatile is that it's like the Steam marketplace. Once you can sell that stuff for real world money, yeah, now we've made it into real gambling because you can literally profit from a microtransaction. And once profit enters into it, all the unspoken rules change. All bets are off, really. I actually have kind of a question about this too, because, well, how much is too much then? Selling cosmetic items in the shop, that seems fine. But what about boosters? XP, damage, mana boosters, those are staples in a lot of these game shops, and people tend to not get too antsy about that. How about a vehicle you can't get without spending real world money? Where's the tipping point of what's acceptable and what's pay to win? When does a microtransaction turn into buying power and buying convenience? I don't think I can overstate what kind of baggage comes with the term microtransaction to begin with. The Division has been very animated about no microtransactions. Vanity items are going to be in the DLC, not in microtransactions. I categorize that with the heading of it's really what you call it, isn't it? Because in all reality, it's going to be the same thing, just without that toxic name attached to the game. I find it kind of hilarious that they will do everything. They will bend over backwards to not call it a microtransaction. They'll call it the store, the shop for their $1 trinket items. Anything but a microtransaction. And here's the funny thing to me. A lot of these microtransactions, this is the way to go for a lot of these companies to keep their perpetual games going. Just not the way they've been doing it. Running any perpetual title online is going to take money, and barring a subscription fee, there aren't many ways to keep the money flowing in. A DLC, okay, yeah, but how often can you crank out DLC and guarantee any kind of quality? The better answer is high volume, low cost items. The main problem is when these items are made to be consumed or they're just imbalanced. Like example, DCUO's Repair Bot. Every time a player puts one of these things down, it costs them about $1 in real world money. So by comparison, World of Warcraft, my engineering main character had a repair bot that he could put down once an hour. In mid-raid, it was a convenience to the team. As a consumable product, people only tend to put them down in dire emergencies. And of course, the promise of power slot machine pulls of boxes, safe airdrops, or whatever you want to call them. This is why the term microtransaction has become so volatile. We are sick and tired of gambling in our video games. Now, we'd even probably put up things like consumables and stuff like that if it wasn't over and above a subscription fee or that $80 that we spent on the title already. But there are enough people that do find it okay, and they're okay with spending money with microtransactions and buying all these gambling tries. Okay, fine. I have a working solution, but no one's going to like it. Just don't play the game. If it has any kind of a system where you have to pay for random drops, don't buy the game. If they introduce it later, uninstall. And that might sound draconian, but you gotta hit them where it hurts, and it hurts when you hit them in their wallets. I think this is the lesson that Payday 2 tried to teach us. Once players felt like they were being soaked, they just left. And you gotta do a lot to get them back in on the current title, or even possible future titles you're gonna release. Granted, people are gonna argue that one gamer is not gonna hurt their bottom line, but a couple of thousand people leaving their game en masse, that will affect their bottom line, and they will sit up and they will take notice at that. Now, a lot of the even more cynical among you are gonna say, well, it's not gonna matter because they're not courting you, they're going after larger... You know, actually, we should save that one for next week. Yeah, I know. Cliffhangers suck.